Hello everyone, welcome to class number 7. This one is about wealth management in relation to merchanting. Class number 4 was about wealth management in relation to playing RuneScape, but this is something else. Class number 4 is about how you should manage your wealth around playing the game, to integrate your merchanting in it in the most efficient way. Now this class is more about how to manage your wealth within merchanting. The first rule for that is pretty damn simple. Don't put all your money in one item, ever. I know that you think an item is going to make you a lot of profit when you think that it's very tempting to do this, but that is only the success story. No matter what you're doing, there is always a risk of it going wrong. And this may be for predictable reasons, but sometimes you just don't have a clue why your item is crashing. Now, I've seen countless friends trying to start flipping their first party hats as soon as they could afford one, and then the hats would crash pretty deep at some point and they would be stuck with it until they decided to sell it for a loss later on. Or they would rise back up if they got lucky, which could sometimes take days or even weeks. Now just look at the example of the Thyroid bow right here. It looks pretty stable for a few days, so you might be flipping around this point, all going well, nice margins. But if your bank is around 100 to 110 mil and you are flipping this, and it suddenly crashes on you down to 80 or 90 mil like that, you lose a large amount of your bank right there and you're stuck with the item without knowing how long it's going to be. Right here on this graph you can see it's only crashing day after day, further and further. Like sometimes there are these little rises, but it doesn't go back up to the 95 to 100 mil mark. So if you're going to be selling, you're going to be cashing in a loss. And this is of course a problem. If all your money is invested into this one Thyroid bow, yeah, then you have a pretty big problem right here. Now if we look further through the item, it indeed recovers and it even rises a bit, but unless you have a large bank, it is not good to take this hit when you could have avoided it by staying away from items that take up almost your entire bank. Now risk applies to all forms of merchanting. No matter what you're doing, an item can always crash quickly, and if you're active flipping, it's okay, it's the least risky out of all of them, because you're at least around and you can follow up on your item, you can see what's going on. But if you're active flipping, then you might as well do at least 2 items, since you're there at the Grand Exchange anyways. I mean, you're standing there, why would you put it all on one item? It's just taking more risk. Now when you do inactive flipping or investing, it is very risky to put everything in one item. If you're gone for a larger period of time, and something changes in the game causing your item to crash, all or the majority of your money is going to be stuck in that item for a period of time you don't know about and you usually can't predict. So when you merchant a minimum of 2 items, guys, just because the items are less expensive, it doesn't necessarily mean that they are less profitable. So don't let that get the best of your greed. There really are plenty of lower valued items that can make you just as much or even more as the higher wealth ones. So if you're not supposed to put it all in one item, how exactly should you efficiently manage it then? Well, that is something I would like to explain in this class. Now it is of course not as simple as just putting your money into 2 or more items, but it's more along the lines of always having your money set to purpose and not gathering dust in your bank. It is also about having your money available whenever you need it for the next flips or investments. Now don't underestimate this, guys, it is quite hard and something you really only want to do to improve or to maximize your profits. You could compare it to maximizing training a skill. It requires extra effort, but it also comes with an extra reward. Now first I'll talk about having your money available at the right time. In the previous class about inactive flipping, I talked about times when you should avoid doing inactive flipping. Now these times were the last days of the month and before the behind the scenes videos on Fridays. Now this is because you want to have your money available to you at these times, so you have it ready to invest in items that are about to rise a lot because of changes in the game. But you're not only trying to save yourself from losing money here, by not inactive flipping them, but you also create an opportunity for yourself to jump right on the items that are going to be successful. Now it's fine to actively flip at almost all times, as you can usually quickly get out without a loss, but the problem might be that you have more wealth than you can put in your Grand Exchange slots because of item limits, and that would leave cash unused, and that's really what you do not want in merchanting. Now, as you can tell, things are getting more complicated here because, well, if you have lower wealth, you really won't notice this much yet, but the richer you get, the harder it'll be to use as much cash as possible. Once you have billions of wealth and rares are crashing, you really have to get more creative, as the only items that can cover so much wealth in one limit are rares. But more about that in another class though, because this doesn't apply to most people at this point yet, and it's better if we just focus on the wealth most people are at right now. Well, straight up, an easy solution for not having enough grand exchange slots to use all your cash most of the time is buying membership for an extra account and merchanting with that. It will definitely improve your profits by a lot, and when I say a lot, I mean really a lot, because it will help you to price check items if you're on your limit on the other account. It will help your investments because basically your item limit per 4 hours is doubled, or even tripled, or whatever you plan to do. Yeah, it just helps with those investments, and with the short-term flips, it's just great. But of course, not everyone has the possibility or the money to get extra membership, extra member accounts. But if you do, that is definitely my suggestion for you, as it increases your profit by a lot. Now, without that luxury, I suggest you to make yourself a list. Yeah, I know, me and my list. Yeah, another list. This list is for decent flipping items and their limit value. Now we have this on merch.com, as you can see right here, and it's an excellent way to find yourself flipping items, so you can put in as much of your wealth as possible, so you don't leave too much unused. Now you can fill this list up depending on your wealth, and I suggest you to have intervals of about 2%. So if you have a 50 mil bank, you want to use intervals of 1 mil. Like in the example here, items around 23 mil, 24 mil, 25 mil, etc. And if you have a 200 mil bank, for example, then it's items every 4 mil. Now, it's fine if they change in price sometimes, because that happens, but you find that out as you go. As long as you have a bunch of items around that wealth mark, it's okay. And you can also always set up a spreadsheet to keep track of the prices for you automatically. But those would only be the grand exchange prices, of course. Now, the more items your list has, the better it is for you, really, because, well, at lower wealth you don't even need to fill in the intervals. You can just make a list of items that go well above your wealth, like Clean Torso, for example, which has a limit price of like over 200 mil. And you'll always be fine, but as you go higher in wealth, you'll find the list very convenient to use more of your cash. Now, when you pick from this list, you could divide your wealth over 3 items. So for example, 70% on one item, 20% on the second one, and 10% on the third one. But as you can already guess it here, the more evenly you spread your wealth out, the safer it is. It's of course not always the most profitable, so sometimes you'll put in more wealth into one item than other times to get more profit, but I suggest to never go over that 75 to 80% of your bank in one item. Because when you get stuck, you're likely to lose more than you could have gained by putting in that last 20%. Either by losing the actual money, because you have to sell off your item for a lower price, because the item is crashing, but also, you also lose money by not being able to merchant for a certain period of time if you're holding on to the item. And that costs you profit, like I mentioned earlier at the Thyroid bow example. Now, to recap all of this, you should spread your wealth out over different items to minimize the risk. You should make sure your items can always be easily liquidated into cash at the right times. Try to anticipate those updates so you can invest when you need to. And you should of course not keep your wealth in items right before the behind the scenes. I'm not telling you to panic sell or anything, it's just anticipating the updates. And you should make yourself a list of flipping items and their limit values to be able to use as much of your cash as possible, or even better, you should spread it out over multiple accounts to maximize your profits. Now, if you can do all of these things, then you'll be able to increase your profit a lot while decreasing the risk a lot. Merchanting is really not gambling, it's just making educated decisions, and if you know how to do it, then you have the upper hand over those who don't, which is some of the things I enjoy about merchanting, one of the things. Hopefully the concept of wealth management within merchanting is clear to you all now. If you have any questions or comments, then feel free to leave them below, and I will see you guys at the next class, which is about time of the day and merchanting. And I'll see you all at the next class, and have a great day.